Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This is the episode we are going to finish talking about this guy, Megalo. So, unfortunately, a lot of stuff didn't get filmed to wrap this thing up. I did take quite a bit of pictures, so we are going to kind of go through a slideshow and I'll kind of explain all the different things that we did to get it to where it is. But it's finally done. What feels like took 100 years really took a little bit more than 1 year, I think-ish, to get it done. But as you can see, it's here in Flippin Great Pinball, fully functional, running on a PS4. It's also compatible with PC or any real like USB stuff. It's got brook boards in it, but let's go ahead and take a look at the last few steps we needed to do to get this thing here and up and running. All right, it is voiceover time. So what you're seeing here is the wiring harnesses that I built for the brook boards for the bottom of the Megalo. So basically, on the underside of the Megalo panel, we have our control panel harness with the female end, and then that's going to wire down into the male end, which what you're seeing here will actually plug into. So let's take a look at the other side. All right, so what we're seeing here is the the harness that we just built plugs into the brook, and then the other side of the control panel will actually plug into that, and then from this brook board out, we are going to have our USB, which goes straight into the PS4 or the PC. Here's another look at the female part of this. You can see the female pins, and then the male side will have the male connector with the male pins. And again, this is a standard Molex connector that we use to kind of just plug everything in. It's a standard thing on arcades, but makes a really solid connection, and I threw some Testa tape on there to kind of hold all the wires together to help a little bit with wire management. Here you can see the harness with all the quick disconnects and everything, JLF harness, everything pinned out to the male connector. Again, have a little bit of Testa tape on there just to kind of help with keeping all the wires from straggling about and getting caught on things. But you see here the metal that we had to cut in order to fit the JLF and the Sandwell buttons in that space to make it a little bit thinner so it'll actually fit properly on the panel. And here's a look at both of the harnesses completely done for player 1 and player 2. You can see the start buttons kind of hang out in the middle. Now the home buttons are located in a different spot, which we're going to see here in a second, but these are the full wire looms, everything nice and tucked. This way when you put it onto the arcade, it just fits through the two little holes that we have underneath. Here's a quick little glamour shot, if you will, of the panel from the top with the harnesses completely done and ready to be mounted onto the Megalo. What we're doing today is actually going to be working on this coin door right here. We have to put a hole in it. So this is the actual Megalo coin door. Needs a little bit of work. We're going to respray it and everything. But what I'm basically going to do is put a hole right here, and then maybe two holes on the outside for the home buttons, but basically a big hole right here in the center of this tray to have the USB pass-through. So what I'm going to do is I've got my drill over here. We're going to take that drill and kind of just basically put a hole right here, put it through it, and then make sure that little adapter piece fits. So I'm going to put a hole in it. Alright, so we have our hole drilled. Not the cleanest hole, but I'm going to get the Dremel in there and kind of clean some of that stuff out. But I'm going to go grab that adapter just to make sure that it fits in there. Alright, so here's our little adapter, and as you can see, it's USB 3.0 supported, but it's got like almost like a half button kind of back on it. Basically, we're going to unscrew this, kind of feed it through, and make sure that it fits in there. So it fits, but we got to Dremel a little bit off of that hole. So I'm going to get the Dremel and just kind of even this out. You can kind of see here, hopefully. It fits, but it doesn't fit quite flush because that part needs to be grounded a little bit. So let me even that out, and then we'll go ahead and kind of take a better look at it. Alright, so now you can see how flush it sits. Get that all nice and drilled, and then once we have it painted, you won't even see that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and try to drill these other two holes, one on each side for the home buttons for the brook pad. So let's get the drill back out and drill those guys. Alright, so we have our holes drilled. I got to go ahead and file these guys out quite a bit to get the buttons to fit, but the USB, it's actually going to sit this way. The USB will be in the middle, and then the home buttons will be on the left and right besides the lock. So I'm going to go ahead and file these out to get my little flush buttons here to fit. And then we'll go ahead and strip everything down and sand it, and then hopefully, if it's not too rainy or anything, we'll go ahead and start painting this guy up. But I'm going to keep at it and get these buttons set in there. Alright, so here you go. It's kind of a quick layout, and I know the buttons aren't perfect, but it's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and strip this thing apart, pull the lockout buttons and everything out, and we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of metal work as far as flattening out some of the stuff we just drilled, and then we're going to start spraying it. Alright, so we got our first coat of wrinkle black on there, and looks almost like a brand new coin door. It's pretty awesome how this stuff kind of does that. But what we got to do now, while that's drying, is some of the stuff got dinged up over time, so we're going to go ahead and take the hammer kind of straighten some of this stuff out and then give it a quick little sand to get some of this loose rust and crap off of it. And we'll go ahead and spray this guy next. But yeah, I'm gonna get the hammer out. Try to tighten this guy up a little bit. So here we got all 3 pieces of the coin door sprayed up. Just gonna let them cook in the sun for probably like a day. Let them get nice and cured, solid, whatever you want to call it. But that hammered paint always comes out really cool. Makes these old coin doors look really, really nice. Get a nice like finish on them and everything, so they look pretty good. Alright, now that the coin door is done and the wiring for the control panel is done, we are on to cutting the flooring or the rubber matting, whatever you want to call it, for this. So this was quite a process. I actually had the wife help me out here. But basically what we had to do is I found some pretty comparable rubber matting on Amazon. So we're going to go ahead and cut that and get it to fit on the bottom of these 2 pieces here. So here you can see basically this stuff came in like a 4-foot by like 8-foot roll, I think it is. Basically we had to kind of cut the middle part out where the coin door rests and size it up on the sides, and then the back's kind of like an angle thing. But basically we were just measuring it out here, and then we were cutting it with an X-Acto knife to spray it with the 3M adhesive glue. This was kind of a pain because nothing was flat, and as you can see the material kind of came rolled up the wrong way, so there's a couple little ridges in it. But we got it to work pretty well. So this is the gnarly 3M Industrial Super 77 glue. Comes out like a spider web when you spray it. You kind of feel like Spider-Man a little bit, but basically you spray this stuff on the bottom of the arcade and on the bottom of the rubber itself. Give it about 10-15 seconds to kind of get tacky, and then you have about a minute before it fully settles. But it was really, really grippy, so once we put this stuff down, you have a few seconds at most to kind of line it up and push it down flat. So here you can see this is the seat, this is the back part. We did this part first. Luckily I had the metal brackets. I pulled those off, sprayed it down, and glued it down and held it on pretty flat. And it actually, it looks really well. It almost looks stock. The stock material is like more of a, doesn't really have ridges in, it's more of flat rubber. But this actually held pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with it. And here's the front piece, kind of all done. I have the little ratchet set sitting there to hold it down. Basically got both pieces kind of just cure in there. I let it dry for about 2 or 3 days before we actually moved this thing. But overall, it came out pretty well. I'd say it's like 95% perfect to what I wanted, so I'm pretty happy with that. But a lot of work to get this stuff to stick down. We had to scrub that stuff really clean, but it came out really nice. All right, here's the underside of where the control panels mount. There's some metal panels that actually sit here, so you can see the harness that I made kind of coming down from the bottom. You can see the bottom of the buttons a little bit. And then in the center, towards the left, there's a black hole there. That's actually the stock way to run cables out. So we can utilize both of those for USB or for the control panel harness, whatever it is. But this is basically where the PCBs sit. They sit on the bottom of these little white pieces of metal. We actually saw that earlier in the video, and then they plug in here, and then the USB cable goes through that little grommet into where the PS3 is held. Sorry, PS4 is held. Here's a quick little glamour shot of the finished top coin door, I guess bottom coin door, if you will. This is where I put this USB in here so the guys can, for fight night, fighting game community dudes can run their PS4 sticks into this. A lot of guys play with hit boxes or prefer their own sticks, so this just makes it easier than them having to unplug the PlayStation, plug it back in. So they can just plug their sticks right into the USB on the coin door, plug it in, and get to fighting. Alright, and here it is moved up to FGP. I actually did a stream of this where we kind of did final assembly live for everybody to kind of check it out. This thing we actually had to use a trailer. It's way too heavy to put in the back of my pickup truck by itself. So luckily my buddy Jared, aka Mr. SNK from Paducah Podcast, he actually came up to my shop, helped me load it onto his trailer, and we dragged it up to FGP for a final assembly. So we got one more glamour shot before we check out some video of it in action. Alright, so this is basically fully assembled, but you can see the monitor still kind of sitting on its feet. So at this point we didn't have the monitor mount or anything on it, but what looks gigantic in my tiny little shop actually looks kind of small or normal size in FGP. You can see it here sitting next to my Mario Kart GP, and that's actually a Ninja Turtles cab behind it. So you can see how big this thing actually is. A lot of people were worried about the 43-inch monitor being too small, but when you're sitting like 3 feet away from it, it feels gigantic. So that's the snapshots of all the stuff we did to get this thing finished up. And now let's take a look at it in action. So here is the Megalo up and running. We got it running Dragon Ball Z right now, but you can see it's all completed and done. Looking pretty good in here. I do still have to remove the big Star Wars sticker off of the back here, but overall, much nicer than it was. But pretty cool here. Got it all mounted here. The monitor's nice and sturdy on it, so you don't really get a lot of wiggle from it, but got all the side panels on there and cleaned up. We got the rubber matting kind of down here. This way when you sit on it, if you guys want to get kind of an idea of how close you are to it, it's, you know, I'm sitting here and it feels gigantic. It feels like it's a big 43-inch monitor, so it's kind of cool. We have our sticks and everything here. Kind of full layout on it. We have the speaker panels on there, and my friends from the Tampa Arcade Club made some marquees for free play last year. I just left them there now, but they're under the plexi. So some of the hardware is missing. I got to pick up some more of those metric. I think these are like M5 bolts. I got to go to Ace this week and pick more up. But everything's there, and then down here on the coin doors, I do have a lock I'm going to put in here when we're done filming. But down here is the USB attachment, and those little buttons on the side there. Those are actually the home buttons. So when you press these buttons here, it brings up your home menu on the PlayStation. So, and then just like before, now you have your buttons and everything. Oh, hang on a second, screen went black. Everything kind of moves around and it works like it's supposed to. So, right now we have a stereo kind of running the, like a stereo receiver running the 2.0 surround sound. I had to grab my little snake cable puller to run the wire. We got to run a wire from in here underneath where it separates through here into where the subwoofer is. So I had to get like a tool to reach in this little tiny hole and pull the wire through. So that'll all be stuff that is coming soon, but this is the Megalo. So, thank you guys for sticking with me. Sorry it took so long to get through this project, but it may not look like it, but this thing was a lot of friggin' work. A lot of cleaning and modifying metal and stuff that I'm not super familiar with, but learned a lot on this one. But overall, it's pretty cool, and my favorite thing about it is it felt gigantic in my shop, and in Flippin Great Pinball here, like, it just like fits in. It feels like it's, you know, meant for something this gigantic. So, I mean, you can see the size of it next to like my Mario Kart. They're very similar in size. So, if you've ever seen a Mario Kart, you get an idea of how big this Megalo is. But yeah, overall, it's great. I am thinking, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm thinking about painting this monitor white, like the bezel. A couple people have asked if I planned on it, and I did actually plan on it. I just don't know the best way of doing it. I don't know if I want to spray paint it, considering it's a brand new television, monitor, whatever. Kind of want to, because I think it would look nice white, but I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, guys, that's gonna do it. We did it. We finally finished up the Megalo project. So now we're on to bigger and better things. Hopefully not bigger. I shouldn't say bigger. These things are pretty freaking huge. But anyways, on to more projects. So not sure what we're gonna do next. We'll do something cool. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.